Hey YouTube, what's up? This is CDog2233 here, and I have decided to do kind of an employee, I don't know what you call it, kind of a gripe. I got the idea from watching a GameStop video of an employee coming out and saying all the stuff that, the mistreatment and all that, and it made me kind of wonder why there isn't one for Menards since I've been working since I was 15. And I'm now 21, and so I've been working a long time, and the worst place I've ever worked is Menards. I'm going to try not to use too many names. If they slip out, well, it's probably deserved. I am going to use this specific store in case any corporate ever sees this. I would love for the store to suffer because their treatment of employees is just absurd. So I'm a college student, and I decided to apply at the Jamestown, North Dakota Menards. It was just opening, I decided, they're finally hiring employees, it might be a good college job, it seems like a decent place to work. They were offering really high pay compared to every other store in Jamestown, so I was like, okay, I'll apply. So I got the job. And of course, they offered me very high pay. They hired a lot of people, which kind of made sense at the time because we had to set up the entire store. And we were getting great hours. I was getting, the 28 hours I wanted per week while I was in school because that's all I had time to do. The problem is, during the store set, they were also training all of the full-time employees. And as a part-time employee, I missed half the training because I wasn't there for all of it, They'd start training at like 9 in the morning when I'm in class. Like, I can't be at training if I'm going to be in class. So, obviously, I missed a lot of training. They said they'd come back to it at some point. Their coming back to it later on was handing me a packet and saying, sign it. And I was basically signing that I knew everything in the packet, even though they hadn't gone over anything in the packet. So, that was very unprofessional of them. So moving right along, I wrote down a little bit here. After we opened and things got, kind of slowed down a little bit, the hype of the new Menards kind of slowed down. Basically, I came to the realization that they definitely overhired for the store opening. My hours got severely cut. It was really absurd because my department managers, I was in wall coverings department. There were 2 assistant managers and, a department manager in the wall coverings department. And they would hang out with some of the workers outside of work. And there was one instance that was confirmed by 2 of the assistant managers and the person involved herself. And what it was they were all having a bonfire at one of their houses, and they invited over half the department. I was not one of those people. I was not one of the favorites. Anyway, they were all drinking at this bonfire, which is very unprofessional of department managers to be doing. They shouldn't be doing that. That's very poor. I'll get into the poor management of Menards later. But that was going on, and the thing that happened was I know this girl because she goes to the same college as me in Jamestown, North Dakota. And she's not 21, but 3 different people told me how drunk she got at this bonfire with the managers. So the managers of the department were condoning underage drinking. And, according to the story, she brought her own alcohol to the bonfire and she was drinking it there. But any manager who actually knows how to manage should have instantly seen a red flag, said, hey, you can't be drinking over here. It's very unprofessional. A real manager would say, me hanging out with my subordinates is unprofessional, because it is. You should never be hanging out with your subordinates outside of work in, after hours. There's sometimes, it's okay, if it's a big company-wide thing, but the problem is he was playing favorites. He was making friends with some people and not others, and it affected all of their management later on in the store. And obviously with the scheduling, my hours were getting cut after the store opened. I didn't really understand why. And they were also ignoring my availability. They kept scheduling me at dumb times. I'd tell them over and over, I cannot work at this time. I have class. And these people, they did not know how to manage at all. The thing with Menards as a company is they hire all of their management level people from within the company. So the problem with this is, and I am a business admin major and an accounting major. I'm currently a junior at the University of Jamestown. I carry a 3.7 cumulative GPA. I carry a 4.0 major GPA. And from a management perspective, I mean, hiring from within is good because you get people who know the company well, they know the operations already. It's very good in that respect. But the problem with hiring everybody from within is you get people who do not know how to manage. These are people who, after high school, just worked at Menards and worked their way up. They don't have management training. They don't have good HR training or people skills. And I mean, it really shows with Menards. Their management is very, very bad. As somebody who's just majoring, I'm a junior, so I've gotten into my major studies, pretty deep into them, and I can just see all the holes already, all the problems, and it's just really weird that Menards hasn't been called out on it. Like, they're very unprofessional management. So anyway, moving on, I keep getting a little sidetracked here. I'm sorry about that. They were ignoring my college hours, all that kind of stuff. So eventually, one weekend, I was scheduled to work a 4-hour shift. It was my only shift that week. I was very angry that it was my only shift, but I showed up anyway, and 20 minutes into my work, the assistant manager of my department told me that I could go home. We weren't making enough sales that day. They said they got to start sending people home or they're not going to make enough revenue, which is fine. I understand that. I'm a business admin major. I get that. You have to watch your overhead. You've got to watch how much money you're spending, how much is coming in that day. If the numbers aren't adding up, you got to send people home. I mean, I understand that completely. The problem is I was only there for 20 minutes and there were 3 other part-timers that were there since opening. And they weren't getting sent home early. And you could just see the blatant favoritism that they were favoring these people so much more than me. They were on the same level as me, but yet they were getting so many more hours than me. And I called her out on the spot. I was like, why don't you send someone else home? I just got here. And she flat out responded with, I don't want to deal with you. Go home. And again, that's so unprofessional, so rude. No assistant manager of any type should just talk to her subordinate like that. I simply wanted an explanation, and she told me she didn't want to deal with me and go home. I mean, that was just very unprofessional. So that was it. I dropped it. I left. And I messaged the other assistant manager on Facebook and told him that I needed to talk to the department head. My next shift, which was 5 days away because of my ridiculous schedule. And in the meantime, he went ahead and told the assistant manager and the assistant head that I was upset. I had something to talk about. Obviously, the one that I had this altercation with knew exactly what it was about, and she knew I was about to rat on her. So she went to the general manager, Kurt, of the store. His name is Kurt. I don't care if he gets in trouble. And told him this bogus story about me making a huge scene in front of customers, refusing to clock out after being told to clock out, and just making a huge scene. She told him all this stuff before I could even get in and talk to somebody about how unprofessional she treated me. So at the end, it looked like she was complaining about me, not me complaining about her. And she covered her ass very well. My hat is off to you. You know who you are. So my next shift, I get called up, got to talk to the manager, the assistant manager, and the assistant department manager, the one I got in the altercation with. We're all up, all 4 of us in an office, and the GM starts off with, I was thinking about firing you for this. He said that without even hearing my side of the story. He had also made up his mind that he wasn't going to fire me, but he was going to write me up. And he did this without even hearing my side of the story. He didn't ask anybody else for their side of the story. He had just decided already because he doesn't know how to manage. He gets told one thing by one person, and that's what he goes with. He doesn't care what anyone else says, obviously. So I had to explain my whole piece to him, And, I was complaining they're playing favoritism in the scheduling. I'm getting no hours. And he said, well, it's merit based. You don't do anything when you're here. You're not, he basically told me that I'm a bad employee and that's why I'm not getting hours. And in order to get hours, I'd have to prove myself, even though I was down to 4 hours a week. And that's literally impossible to prove yourself in 4 hours. And I basically called him out on that. I told him, I don't know how to do a lot of this stuff in this store because I was never trained to, because you guys mass trained everybody and skipped half the part-timers. So I honestly had never really been trained to do a lot of this stuff. I mean, I did everything I could, and then he made up this, or he didn't make it up, but he said he's watched me stand at the desk, and he has sat and watched the security cameras of me standing at the desk. And I mean, I told him right there, if I'm standing at the desk, it's because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing and I'm waiting for a manager. And this is a fact. There were times I had to wait at the desk for a manager to show up so I could ask what to work on. I didn't know what to do. They had these checklist things and there was nothing on there for me. So I didn't know what to do. I had to talk to a manager to figure out what to do. And my problem with this is he says he was sitting watching me on the cameras. If he was a real manager or knew how to manage, he would have gotten off his lazy ass and come and addressed me directly, not complained to my department managers, not, this was the first I had heard of this. And he should have come and addressed it to me like a manager does. If there's a problem, a manager is supposed to address it. And the most effective way is to address it right there. If you see someone doing something wrong, call them out right there and tell them, what are you doing? You need to be doing something. Why are you standing here? But no, he claims he sat there and watched me on the security cameras. That is not managing. That's doing nothing. I'm sorry, if you see me doing nothing, it takes you 10 seconds to decide I'm standing at the desk doing nothing. If you're sitting there, you're wasting your time and my time because I clearly need something to do, and instead of telling me something to do, you're sitting there watching me on a camera, which I call BS. I don't think he actually watched me on a camera. So that was just horrible management on his part. I called him out. He got very, I explained all of this to him. I told him I told him everything I just said. And he just, he kind of backed into a corner and said, go home. And he told me to go home for the day. Shocker, my one shift. And I got sent home early again. At this point, I was mad. I started looking for a new job. I was like, they're screwing me out of hours. They're being unprofessional. At this time, I did file a grievance to corporate about this altercation with the managers and never heard back, never had anything done about it, which, a lot of grievances like that, they don't go through. It's one complaint. So I didn't really expect much to come of a grievance to corporate. But anyway, I tried. And, I ended up just putting my 2 weeks notice in. I told them it's directly because of my hour cutting. There were people that did far less than me that were getting way more hours. The example I used earlier of the girl who got drunk with the managers, she literally never did anything. She came to work every day with an excuse why she couldn't work. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, I'm feeling sick. Oh, I have a disease and it isn't working out. And they'd say, okay, fine, you can just watch the counter. But the second they said that, she'd be goofing off with other employees, messing around. She didn't look very sick to me. And she got 70 hours on Black Friday or Black Friday weekend. And I got 20. And I was like, how the hell does that work? She does nothing, but she hangs out with the managers outside of work, so she gets all the hours. And apparently she does no wrong, and I do everything wrong. So, call it what you want, but that's unprofessional. It's and it was very blatant. So, if you're thinking of working at Menards, I say don't. Everybody I know who's ever worked at a Menards has complained about it and said they treat their employees like crap, the pay sucks, which I do agree with. I had a buddy who was forklift certified, applied at the Fargo Menards, and they offered him like $8.75 an hour. And that's absurd, He has a certification even. Like, he'd be very useful. So, I mean, Menards isn't known for paying well. I say go work at Kmart. I've worked at Kmart. It's better than Menards. I have 5 years of retail experience. I've worked in retail since high school. Menards is the worst place I've ever worked. Poor employee, just poor treatment of employees. They don't schedule you when you want to be scheduled. They're not flexible. Their pay sucks. They lie to your face a lot. And they have poor management because all they do is hire them all from within. I understand maybe hiring department managers from within. That's fine. But, a store manager should have some credentials. And Kurt, the GM of the Jamestown Menards, told us in a meeting, it was one of the orientation meetings we had when we were opening, that he did not go to college. He didn't like school. After high school, he worked at Menards, and he has worked for Menards for like 40 years or something like that, and he's worked his way up. And I mean, that's fine, but at some point, he should be required to go get an associate's degree in management, because he doesn't know how to manage. I mean, he jumps to conclusions. He's just very unprofessional in his treatment. He's very arrogant, self-righteous, say what you want. He's unprofessional. All of them were. And it was just a very disappointing place to work. I had high expectations, and I was very let down. And, that was the end of my time working there. In this video, I'm going to attach a photo of my hours just as proof that my hours were sliced very badly, and it was very absurd. I was given no notice. I wasn't given anything. The only notice that was ever given between me and Menards was my 2 weeks notice, and I did work it, mainly just because I needed some income. I was bleeding. I was not making my car payments. I was getting screwed out of my credit cards because I was spending money thinking that, my income would stay about the same, and then suddenly it just disappeared. 3 hours a week, that's nothing. I mean, I was expecting so much more, so I was charging my credit cards accordingly so I could pay them off, and budgeting with my car payment, and they screwed me, and they gave me no notice that they were going to cut my hours. So, I mean, in my opinion, just don't work for Menards. I hope this video goes viral. I mean, it's the Jamestown, North Dakota Menards. You guys treat your employees like shit. I'm just going to be straight up. You guys are unprofessional. Your management is horrible. I'm in college for management. I know something about management, probably more than they do, and it's very unprofessional. I mean, on the first day, my 20-year-old assistant department manager asked me if I was 21 so I could buy him alcohol. It's like, no, dude, if you're my manager, I'm not buying you alcohol. Why don't you stop being so unprofessional? And it's just really just a shit show. So, I mean, I hope this helped you guys. I hope this raised awareness. I know Menards is a great store. I mean, they've got good prices. They have a huge variety of products. But, I mean, if you're thinking about working there, or, I mean, if you see an employee there, don't go hard on them. They're getting treated like shit. Just be nice to Menards employees. And, I mean, I'm not discouraging people from shopping there. I know they have a much better selection and better prices than Home Depot and Lowe's. Me going forward, it's going to be very hard because I am refusing to shop at Menards after working there. I have no respect for that company. It's just I am blown away with how horrible of a place it was to work at. I could go into details for hours of how miserable and how horrible it was. And I mean, I used to work at Kmart. I spent 2 years at Kmart. Kmart, a huge failing company, and it was 100 times better than working at Menards. I mean, their management is so much more like, they know a little bit about management. Some of them have associate's degrees, they're not super, but that's just, it was way better at Kmart than Menards. That's all I can say. Since Menards, I've just gotten out of the whole retail game. 6 years is enough. I'm just ready to be out of it. So I've kind of moved on to other things. I'm an accounting major, so I've actually started looking into interns and temp jobs, getting some experience in my field. So I'm proud to say I'm out of retail now, but I just wanted to do this grape session and kind of expose Menards for what it is. I hope it was helpful for you guys, and I appreciate any comments. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them. I don't really care. If you've had different experiences at Menards, great. If you love Menards and you're an employee there, great. I know there's people like that. But me personally, it was a horrible experience. I don't think the Jamestown Menards for sure is on par. Maybe other Menards stores are doing better, but the Jamestown one, I didn't see anything impressive about their management. It was very disappointing. So thanks for watching.